All right, so just to confirm, any angle formed by two lines that intersect outside the circle, the measure is going to equal 1/2 the difference. So an angle formed by a secant and a tangent is also going to equal 1/2 the intercepted arc. So what would, in this picture here, here we have a tangent line and a secant line. So the measure of angle L is going to equal 1/2. The larger arc is JH, and then we're going to subtract the smaller arc, JK. The difference of the arcs. So the smaller intercepted arc is always nearer to the vertex of the angle. The larger intercepted arc is always further away. And even if the two lines creating the angle are tangents, the measure of the angle is always 1/2 the difference. So let's look at this scenario. What is the measure of angle B? In this case, the measure of angle B will be 1/2 the measure of ADC. I'm going to have to say the major arc minus the measure of arc AC. Let's go ahead and give an example here. Let's say the measure of this angle here is 215 degrees, the measure of that arc. So if that's 215, what's the other arc measure? Well, if they sum up to 360, 360 minus 215, this one's going to be 145. So what's the measure of angle B? It's going to be 1/2 215 minus 145. The measure of angle B is going to be 1/2. What is 215 minus 145? Is 70. So the measure of angle B would be a 35. This would be a 35-degree angle. So this is just writing what we wrote down at the bottom of the page before, pointing out that we're going to have to note this as the major arc minus the minor arc. The length of the major arc minus the minor arc. So down here, this is kind of hard to read, so I'll just remind you. Here are our scenarios. Central angle, inscribed angle, intersect inside the circle, intersect on the circle, intersect outside the circle. We've learned all of these measurements. Central angle. The measure of the arc, the measure of the angle equals the measure of the arc. Inscribed. The measure of the angle equals 1/2 the measure of the arc. Meeting inside but not at the center, the measure of the angle is 1/2 the sum of the intercepted arcs. Point of tangency, this would be the 1/2 of this arc. The measure of the angle is 1/2 the intercepted arc, and then meeting outside, the measure of the angle is going to be 1/2 the difference of the arcs. Subtraction, the difference of the arcs. That's what's in this really small print down here. And our last relationship of lines to circles is that if you have parallel lines that intercept a circle, if the lines are parallel, so I'm going to mark them as parallel, that must mean their intercepted arcs are congruent.